What's up, YouTube? Blaze here, and I'm back with another reaction video. Okay, as I was saying yesterday, hey, this is going to be another video from the YouTuber Reggie, and it's going to be about Total War Warhammer 3. Basically, the video is called I Became God to Take Over the War. Oh, there's something. Basically, what Reggie did in this video was, I believe, mod it, because if you go into the Steam Workshop for Total War or Warhammer 3, you'll notice that there is literally a ton of mods. And basically, Reggie creates some sort of eldritch sea creature to make him become a god. To destroy his enemies. What normally seems crazy to the rest of us, it's just another day in the office for Reggie. But with that out of the way, hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Being a god has never been so disgusting, because today in Total Warhammer 3 we will be using arcane magic, careful diplomacy, and eldritch abominations to subjugate the world and ascend to godliness. Standing in our way are hordes of beastmen, undead armies, and of course thousands of communists. For every one of these enemies we conquer, our commander grows in size and strength until he becomes a literal god. Can we spread our cult across the world, or will every endgame crisis on max difficulty stop us in our tracks? There's only one way to find out. We start our campaign at the Monument of the Moon and are immediately presented with a difficult decision. Do we want to develop caste-based slavery or experiment with blood sacrifices? I won't lie, my psychosexual need to dominate the poor is very strong, but my compulsion to draw with their blood is even stronger. After that, I began examining our military. We're equipped with several swamp monsters, a goblin shaman that looks suspiciously like Gilbert Gottfried, and our commander, a giant octopus.
Man, I love Gilbert Godfrey. He is an actor. The shame is that he'll be sorely missed.
Named Kroll. I try not to look at him too much because those tentacles make me act up. Right now, he's just a big fat idiot that gets bullied by enemy archers. But for every capital city we capture, we can construct a Temple of Kroll, which increases his weapon damage, armor, and mass by 5%. Our goal? Construct 20 temples so that we can ascend from trifling god to divine entity. First, we have to kill our neighbors. This was when I understood just how large Kroll was, because he looks like this on the auto-resolve. The beastmen did their best, but after buffing Kroll with sneaky stabbing, he absolutely gutted their army. It's at this point I realized I picked the best faction, because I can take my enemies as slaves and sacrifice them before each battle to increase the potency of my magic spells. More on that later. With the beastmen currently locked in my basement, I have to choose my next victim. In an effort to quickly monopolize the color green, I decide to start with the orcs. Unfortunately, all of their cities follow some Latin American naming system, which makes them very hard for me to pronounce. This causes me to vibrate with rage, but it doesn't stop me from auto-resolving them out of existence. In fact, it helped a lot. At this point, I was getting in character as some kind of settlement name auditor, punishing factions with pretentious or unimaginative naming systems, which led me directly to a town in the swamp named Swamp Town. Seriously, guys? I decided to penalize this faction by hiring a group of ogres to beat them to death with mallets. With Swamp Town under new management, we now have regional stability and we can begin developing our economic infrastructure. However, that would be a massive mistake, because when you are playing a lord that looks like this, you are definitely not an economic faction. To put it simply,
I need to engage in homicidal behavior on a massive scale.
So quickly resuming the wanton slaughter of innocent people, I recruit a second general and launch a preemptive strike against Lord Mazdamundi at Port Reaver. Taking the settlement was quite easy, but surviving what came next was an entirely different matter, because on the next turn, Mazdamundi descended on Port Reaver Reaver with all 1,200 pounds of his body positivity and began massacring thousands of innocent Boglars. However, I have confirmed with top scientists that Boglars are in fact not real people. They don't have rights, and we don't have to care when they die, so no big deal. But it was a big deal on the next turn when Mazda Mundi came down to Swamp Town and kicked the shit out of me. Suffering this many defeats so early in the campaign made me seriously consider ending it all. However, I quickly realized that my hatred for the lizards is marginally greater than my hatred for myself, and so I fought on. If you're ever in this situation, I'll tell you exactly how to win. Simply challenge your enemy to a rematch, sacrifice 400 innocent people to supercharge your spells, then spend the entire battle abusing Spirit Leech to kill all of their commanders. Don't tell anyone you did that shit though. They'll make fun of you and call you gay. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. Anyway, this marked a turning point in the war, because, simply put, everyone on the other side was dead. By the time we got to their capital city, they did have an army, but we quickly drowned them in a sea of Boglar corpses, and I guess we also literally drowned them with these tidal waves. With the lizards now relegated to the fossil record, we have to plan our next move. I looked to the south and found opium farmers, and in the north, manic sex criminals. I don't know if you've ever met a dark elf, but canonically, they smell like cigarettes and boiled piss, so I try to avoid them at all costs. I started the war against Cathay by ambushing them at the floating pyramid and capturing several of their cities. They sent their finest dumpling salesmen to stop me, but failed every time. Probably because I just unlocked this new artillery unit and it fires literal laser beams. Not too bad. Eventually, Cathay unified their forces with Marcus Wolfhard and fought me at the Monument of Izatal. This was the
Kind of makes me wonder if, for this video, he must have done some modding for the game, because if there's one thing I know, if you look on the Steam Workshop right now, you'll find a whole lot of mods for this game in particular. It works.
exact point in the campaign where I realized Kroll is absolutely broken, because I now have tier 2 magic plus 100% spell intensity from sacrifices and another 45% from this item. You want to see what that looks like? Look at these spearmen. Now they're gone. That wasn't sped up. 1,500 people just died in 3 seconds. Now casting the big spells might seem like the way to go, but I've discovered a more effective method, because after defeating Yon Bo in combat, I gained a trait which reduces the cost of all of my spells by 20%. This makes my tidal wave cost almost nothing. However, because of the slave sacrifices, it's strong enough to wipe out entire squads of archers in one shot. And to add insult to injury, Kroll has the Brood Mother ability, which causes him to summon a miniature kraken whenever he kills enemy units. I'm sure you can imagine just how quickly this got out of hand. I used this one weird trick to accumulate 1,200 kills on Kroll in a single battle. I had this whole army thing wrong. I saw Kroll and thought, disgusting swamp monster for melee combat. But really, he is one of the most well-educated and gifted mages of all time. Anyway, this probably goes without saying, but we won that battle pretty easily. By this point, the Chinese are finished, Marcus is homeless, and if you're an 8-limbed monstrosity, things are going pretty good. We now have 4 capital cities with 2 temples, and more being built every turn. I can taste godhood, and it tastes like dead Bretonians. It's at this point you're probably wondering, Reggie, do you actually have a plan, or are you going to just keep killing people? To which I reply, that is the plan. That's always been the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like asking if the boss of the Third Street Saints has a plan, or if the plan just involves all shooting up everything and everyone.
Every single video. In my effort to accumulate as many capital cities as possible, I began physically annihilating the Bretts. Sure, they have good cavalry, because their knights are so well trained that they're practically one with their horse. However, my cavalry are literally one with their horse, because I have used dark magic to anatomically fuse them together. Imagine this, you're a French peasant. The only things you know are be stinky and die from shitting yourself. Then imagine seeing these ungodly abominations cresting the hill kill. It's fair to say that you are unprepared for what's about to happen, as was Alberic. In fact, at one point, I ended my turn in march stance beside 2 full Bretonnian stacks, because I fundamentally do not respect them. All in all, we had their entire empire wiped out within 10 turns. It was at this point I realized Jan Bo is actually still alive. I just stole all of his territory, and since then, he's been camping outside my settlements, like a homeless vagrant who steals my recyclables just to survive. After 10 turns of this,
Wow. Yeah.
he worked up the courage to bonsai charge a nearby settlement. By himself. What an asshole. Anyway, I gotta say, he really went for it. It's almost like he didn't have a choice. Maybe he was drafted, or even enlisted, the sponsor of today's video. Enlisted is a first-person shooter that offers a mixture of PvP and PvE combat. Lead a squad of customizable AI soldiers and participate in massive battles with other players. Enjoy multiple weapons, vehicles, and campaigns ranging from the invasion of Normandy to the Battle of Moscow. The combat is very realistic. For example, I can obliterate your ribcage with a shotgun without having to worry about you surviving. Speaking of realism, the graphics are so good I can practically taste the exhaust coming out of this tank. My personal favorite feature is the NI-05 impact mine. It looks like an anti-tank mine at the end of a short stick, because it is. But that's not going to stop me from running across an open field and plunging it into the side of a tank before being atomized in the subsequent explosion. Follow the link below to play Enlisted for free on X.
You know, I might actually try this one of these days, because I keep seeing it on Game Pass. Since I have Game Pass, might as well try it. Plus, if I remember right, I think it's free. Oh yeah. It is free because it says play for free.
Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. Now back to the video. While this was happening, we were having some issues with a tribe of lizard men led by Gorok. You see, he's an unhinged sociopath on a suicide mission to make you uninstall the game. I can say that confidently because he absolutely devastated Kroll in a head-to-head battle, and after I tried to finish him off with a second army, he laughed at me, spit in my mouth, and beat me mercilessly. My greatest victory against him came on the 3rd attempt, where I managed to kill everyone in his army before he single-handedly beat all of my remaining soldiers to death. I genuinely believed I could defeat Gorok.
But it turned out I was in fact a soy boy. I was a low-T cuck.
I want you to, no, I need you to understand that the only way to kill Gorok is by accepting a Pyrrhic victory auto-resolve. I don't care how much it costs, it's worth it. I did this myself, and with Gorok out of the picture, we quickly steamrolled his empire, just in time for a bioterrorist to declare war on us. The Skaven decided to take the fight to us, which is really unfortunate for them, because we've just upgraded our cavalry to this. What is it, and where is its lower jaw? I don't know, but I do know that its anatomical abnormality makes it ideal for swallowing entire rats without chewing. The war with Lord Skrulk lasted about 15 turns, and it went something like this. Get attacked by rats, kill literal millions of them, realize you're still outnumbered, somehow win anyway. Siege battle, lose a siege battle, because you didn't see.
That's because when it comes to the Skaven, sure they have numbers, but from a technical standpoint, they're not exactly the best. That's when it comes to, well, pretty much straightforward combat. So I think they gotta rely on being tactical. Well, plus with the right weapons and units, it's probably, you can easily destroy them without that much effort.
The rats on the south wall, and now you don't have any control points. Increase your blood pressure in frustration. Retaliate with tremendous violence. Get ambushed. Again, and again, and again. Get so angry that you black out, wake up on the defeat screen, and scream into the void. Start winning battles by abusing magic. Don't have mercy. team up with a demented pirate to destroy their capital cities, and eventually the war is over. Well, sort of. You see, it's turn 90, and the endgame event just triggered all of the endgame events. Compared to the rest of the world, we got off pretty lucky, but we do still have to deal with a Vermintide, which means Skrulk is back, and he brought 3 of his finest ball washers to cause trouble. We had to fight them using just Kroll and an army of swamp demons. The game thinks we're going to lose, but what it's not accounting for is my strategic unpredictability. In fact, even I don't know what I'm going to do on a second-by-second basis. But I started by casting a lot of spells, and it was going very well. Honestly, I wish I could take credit for this, but there were so many rats I could probably be doing this blindfolded and killing just as many. Rampaging octopi crashed through their front line, tsunamis obliterated their slingers, and my off-brand lizard men chased down all the survivors. All in all, we won the battle, and Kroll came out with over 1,000 kills. At this point, we're only a renegade god with 7 temples constructed, so we still have a lot of work to do. Now I could just be a loser and play this safe, but instead I decided to sail my armies across the ocean and fight the strongest faction on the map, the Tomb Kings. We came ashore on their borders and quickly realized how bad of a decision this was, because every settlement here is totally uninhabitable. I pretended not to be bothered by this, because that seems like the kind of thing a god would do, but in reality it made building and recruiting troops very challenging. Apart from that, the war with Khemri was going quite well. All of their armies were tied up in the east fighting with the dwarves and Tzeentch, so they were woefully unprepared when we showed up and started trashing the place. Part of the issue for them was that I was shamelessly abusing these guys right here. The Balefire Apprentice is a magical ranged unit, and I figured out that by making an entire army out of them, I can absolutely melt just about everything on the Tomb King roster. Even better still is that each one of them has access to Spirit Leech. This spell by itself can drain enemy lords pretty effectively, but since I have 15 apprentices, I can cast 15 instances of it at the same time. Then, remember that I've sacrificed slaves to double the potency, so we've effectively cast 30 Spirit Leeches on this poor skeleton, and he has been liquefied within 5 seconds. I'm not proud to say it, but this tactic won us a lot of territory in the desert. It's now turn 108, and things are going very well. We have 11 temples, almost 10,000 slaves, a good chunk of North Africa, and we just unlocked a massive buff for our Balefire apprentices. However, this would soon change, because after I pressed the next turn button, every AI on the map entered into some kind of satanic pact to ruin my life. Khemri started pushing aggressively from the east, then Ikit Claw started attacking us from the north. Following this, some Dark Elves decide they want to harvest my organs in Lustria. Meanwhile, some Wood Elves put us on a stretching rack ass first. And finally, gangs of Chaos Dwarves used a cartoon drilling machine to pop up randomly across Lustria and begin shooting us to death. So basically, we're in a war on 5 fronts, and no, it's not going well. We were losing about 4 battles per turn. In moments like these, all you can do is put on a strong face, because it's not gay to be pounded by 5 men unless you moan. However, the fight that really broke me was this one against Ikit. The auto-battler said it was a close defeat, so I thought I could win. I load the map and it seems normal. Then I go cry on the toilet for 25 minutes. For some reason, while I'm away, the map begins to change. The sand is getting marginally brighter by the second. By the time I return, it looks like this. The entire map is covered in some kind of oversaturated glow that makes it virtually impossible for me to see what the fuck is going on. If it wasn't for the health bars, I wouldn't even know where my units were, let alone that they're currently being shot with Gatling guns. I tried my best to win this fight, but attempting to identify enemy units under these conditions proved remarkably difficult. Oh, you thought you sent your swordsman to go fight some archers. Well, bad news. That's actually a giant mutated rat man, and everyone is dead. This is it. Rock bottom. I knew there was only one way to get out of this, and it's going to cost me a lot of money. We have access to a unit called a Demonomaniac. It's very good at killing, everything. So against the advice of my financial advisor, I went ahead and built a doom stack with 10 of these fine young men. And let me tell you, as far as antidepressants go, this is the best I've ever had. I unlocked 20% ward save for them and spent the next 15 turns on Cloud 9, absolutely obliterating my way through the Tomb King Empire. All of my other armies were dedicated to holding my borders while Kroll systematically disassembled the strongest faction in the game. Don't worry, I didn't kill them. I left them alive just enough to appreciate how gimped their faction has become. With the Tomb Kings in a medically induced coma, our situation is still complicated but a lot more manageable. Naturally, our finances are still stretched thin and the Wood Elves are becoming a big problem. You see, every man has a single thread of insanity woven into the very fabric of their being. The Wood Elves are made exclusively from these threads, and as such, they've been on a murderous rampage in the north. I've been slowing them down by sacrificing millions of Boglars, but this is not a long-term solution. Luckily, we were able to erect several temples of Kroll in the desert, and we're quickly closing in on godhood. There's just one more thing we need, and it's sitting all the way in Ulthuan. I had Kroll take to the seas and make his way there. Sitting patiently in this castle is a weapon of immeasurable power, wielded by a demon named Enkari. We're actually pretty good friends, but not for long, because I'm going to kill him and claim the Sword of Cain. I started the battle, and
The Sword of Cain? The Sword of Cain.
on paper, we're definitely the underdog, but what the game forgot to consider is this.
Ah!
Hordes of sexed-up freaks charged across the field towards us, but my demonomaniacs were having absolutely none of it. Honestly, it was very enjoyable, and not just because there were thousands of muscular men whipping me, but because I started using this spell. Yeah, that's pretty nasty, even for Slaanesh. Enkari was quite tough, and he was even able to overpower my demonomaniacs, but as it turns out, he is remarkably susceptible to level 1 magic such as Spirit Leech. We finished up the battle with hardly any damage taken, sacked the settlement for 19,000 gold, and claimed the Sword of Cain. This gives Kroll 25 melee attack, 450 armor piercing, 20% ward save, and a vortex ability that just ruins everyone's day. With this weapon, I felt like a new man, like nothing could stop me. So the first thing I did was sail across the ocean and kick the shit out of Ikit Claw before burning his capital city to the ground and Fortnite dancing on the ashes. Oh yes, this feels very good. While this was going on, I had some luck in my war against the Dark Elves. Finding them out of position, I was able to take several key settlements and cripple their empire. Their destruction was the final piece to this whole puzzle, because we're at 18 temples, and after capturing their settlements and doing some construction, it pushed us to 20. Level 50 Kroll with the Sword of Cain is now a god of the depths. With 135 armor, the largest mass of any lord in the game, between 1400 and 2500 weapon strength, plenty of regeneration, overpowered spells, and 15,000 health. Considering he also has 90% damage reduction, that means you'd need to deal about 150,000 damage just to kill him. On paper, we are a god, but it's time to prove it. I brought Kroll back to Lustria and emptied out his army. Everyone else is going north to push back the Wood Elves, but Kroll is going to stuff himself into this drilling machine and travel all the way across the map to finish off the Chaos Dwarves by himself. I came through the portal, and before me were several dwarven armies, a few settlements, and their capital city Zarnagrund. This is basically their equivalent of Mecca, and if we can destroy it, well, they probably wouldn't like that very much. I started the campaign by castrating Gorazin the Breaker and 700 of his men. Apparently, this was a heroic deed. That was easy. On to the next battle. This was where it got interesting, because it's just Kroll versus 5,000 Chaos Dwarves. I drove him straight into the crowd and popped all of his spells while screaming at the top of my lungs. They had about 10 units of archers firing flaming arrows into the side of Kroll for 15 minutes straight, but they couldn't get past his regeneration. The Sword of Cain, Kraken's Pull, and Purple Sun tore through the blobs of conscript soldiers, and eventually I had generated enough power to use this ability. It summons a gang of feral bog beasts that began cleaning out the enemy back line. Wave after wave of dwarves shuffled onto the battlefield, only to be added to the collage of dead bodies that surround Kroll. In moments like these, you might feel bad for the short kings, but in this judgmental and materialistic world, it's not enough to be tall. You have to actively be anti-short. So I did what I had to do and murdered 5,000 dwarves with my bare hands. After cleaning up a few more battles and crashing the game, I had made my way to Zarnagrund. These rat bastards have been popping up in my territory like post-apocalyptic Mormons for the past 35 turns, and I'm finally going to put an end to it. They didn't make it easy for me though. though. Kroll charged towards the front gate and absorbed about 15,000 bullets to the face. After breaking through, it wasn't much better. We had to battle our way past centaur demons, flame warriors, and lots of incels, all while being blasted with heavy ordnance. Although, at some points, the artillery was actually working in our favor. You fire cluster bombs at me. I take 10% damage. Everyone else, they're dead. Not for nothing, this was the first battle where they actually made me hit the regen cap. So hypothetically, they could have killed
That basically is gotta be one of the worst ways of backfiring possible. I'm not even kidding.
me if they had more units, but they didn't. And once I was done smashing them into a dwarf puree, I forced their commanders to land, at which point Kroll smacked them for 50% of their health with each gyration of his grotesque body. After 12 minutes, it was all over, and we had emerged victorious. Friedrich Nietzsche famously proclaimed, "God is dead." But he had syphilis in his brain, so what the fuck does he know? God is alive and well, and he's covered in the blood of short men. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Finally,
That's it for this video. Oh, whether or not I'll react to Reggie again, and it's gonna be a question that's up in the future. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, drop a comment down below. Also, please feel free to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get notified when I post new videos. Currently, I'm 18 subscribers away from reaching 800 subscribers on my main YouTube page. On my main YouTube channel. Hopefully we can get there. Here someday. Also, you can find me on social media. I'll leave all my links along with the original video in the description below. If you want to catch me live, head over to kit.com/blazingkitsandAV YouTuber. To watch all my live streams of when I game, or behind the scenes for when I do live streams on reaction videos. I hope to see you guys there. Until next time, see you guys later.